So you're new to driving and you're just starting off and you're not quite sure what the next steps are. What should you do? Do I need to get a quote? What kind of prices can I expect to pay? And all in general, what altogether should I be knowledgeable with insurance? Well, in today's video, we're going to talk really in depth on the 5 main things that you really need to know. We're not going to go into super in depth because each of these categories has their own video. So if you want to check those videos out, I'll try to link them as I go. Otherwise, check out my channel, Think Insurance Guide or Think Insurance on YouTube, and I'll go through those in depth for you. The number one question is, how do the rates fluctuate? And there's really 5 pieces of that. Is you have your credit that plays a factor. So you're young, you don't have a huge credit score, and that's one of the reasons the prices are going to naturally be higher. The history of your driving is going to also play a factor, where your lack of driving skill or talent, depending how old you are, you could be 50 and just start driving, but some companies ask you, how long have you had your license? So the driving history plays a big piece. The vehicle you pick is also going to play a factor depending on the safety rating of that vehicle. Your location, where you live, it depends on how many accidents are in your area. And then the 5th piece is the general questions, which create what's called a profile. Are you female? Are you married? Are you a homeowner? Are you going to buy life insurance? Are you going to buy home insurance? All of those combinations create discounts, not necessarily rating factors, but they all add up into bundled prices. And that's essentially how you're going to get the best deals in the insurance industry. The second piece you need to know is be very careful with these discounts that these companies are going to offer you. There's something called telematics, and it's an amazing program. It's for those that want to prove that they have good driving skills. If you're like me, you're constantly touching your phone, and the driving is ranked by your actual usage of your phone. So it determines where you go, how fast you stop, how fast you take off, and if you're using your phone while you're driving. And in those cases, those telematics are going to cost you more money in most of those companies that you lean towards. The same scenario goes for the opposite. If they offer a teen driving or a new driver course, those will give you some discounts, but typically the amount of work that you put in for it isn't always worth it, depending on the company. Some of your medium to larger companies are going to give bigger discounts for that. Companies like AAA, Safeco, Citizens, Liberty Mutual, all of those guys are going to focus on keeping mom and dad who have son, daughter, whatever the case is, and they want to give bigger discounts for that. That's the opposite piece of that that's going to help you propel forward. There's not much else I can tell you as far as the driving tips on which ways you should look or how fast you should stop, things like that. It's just going to take practice. That's why that large piece of a rating is the driving history that you've had. The longer that you've done it, the more comfortable you are with it. The third piece is what to do if you're in an accident. If you do have an accident, you've got to quickly determine what the next steps are. You may have seen some of the videos like the Lambo girl video that I did where we broke down the situation where she rammed into a Lamborghini and there was a whole scenario. We assumed that maybe she was in shock or frightened, or maybe she was just in the wrong. There's a video for that to watch if you want to comment on it. But overall, that situation is something that you might come up with. If you are in an accident, you have to determine quickly, was it your fault or was it not? If you're not sure, unfortunately, you're just going to have to let the police decide that. If you know it wasn't your fault, make sure you document everything. Even if it was your fault, make sure you document everything. It's okay to collect somebody's insurance information. It's okay for them to collect yours. Just know that in some states it's not required, so there's no fault states, like Michigan, for example, and you don't have to collect any of that data. Everybody goes off on their own, claims their own insurance. It's good to collect their data, but it's usually done with the police report. The police are the intermediaries where they're going to be in the middle and collect the data from both ends, file a report. On that report, your insurance can pull the data from them, and if it's not your fault, they can go after their insurance and get that claim essentially settled and handled. If it is your fault, then their insurance is going to pay the other insurance, and it's going to be all taken care of. If you're a new driver and you're wondering how much is the price going to change if that happened, it's a lot. It's 30 to 40% higher just because you're already a high risk due to the lack of history. And now we add that accident on top of it. You're probably going to get a ticket with it, which is kind of negated. That's a different video, which I'll link here. And hopefully you're with a company that might give you accident forgiveness. So there's different pieces that you can buy and discounts that you can purchase that are going to get you out of those situations. It's always good to ask somebody if you are able to call your parents or a friend or somebody that knows what they're doing at the time. Just be ethical about it. You'll find that if you lie and cheat and then you get caught in it, it doesn't matter. You might be labeled as fraud, which is 10 times the price, and you definitely don't want that to go on your insurance history. The fourth piece is what happens if my car's stolen. If you have comprehensive, that's the coverage that covers that piece. You've got the liability for others, liability for you. You've got comprehensive for your car in case of theft, vandalism, hail damage, things like that if you hit an animal. And then you've got collision, so that's if you hit a vehicle. In this situation, that comprehensive, you're normally going to pay a deductible unless you're in a state that waives those deductibles. Some states will allow you to choose a $0 deductible, so you don't pay anything. You're going to pay that in your monthly payment. And in the incidents where you do have to claim that, you don't have to out-pocket that. Just be careful because there are states that do rate those against you. States like Texas, no matter what, if it's not your fault, it is your fault. It doesn't make a difference. It rates them heavier and lighter, but it also makes your rate go up no matter what you do. And then the fifth piece, and I'll add a bonus here at the end just because you've been here this long, is the fifth piece is going to be how do you get the best rate? So there's what I call a profile, and it's mixed up of what we just mentioned. Your credit, your location, all of that data. And when you shop within companies, just know that the best price to start with is under somebody else's policy. Assuming that they have a clean history, they have an okay credit score, and they're not paying a ton. Going under someone that you live with, if you're in that household is the only restriction, you can typically get a lower price almost every single time. You don't need to shop around. You don't need to check quotes anywhere. You don't need to do any of that because I can tell you 9 out of 10 times if you're a new driver going under someone else's policy, they have the history, they have the longevity, they have the discounts. And adding you underneath that portion is going to give you all of those things as well. If you do need to shop at this point, there's a lot of steps that you could take. I linked a company below that you could check out. But before you do that, what I would do is know the questions that they're going to ask you ahead of time so you can prepare for those pieces that you need to know. That video that you're going to want to check out is here, where we go over the main questions that you're going to be asked in the insurance. So the next step is to know what questions that they're going to ask. The video here is going to go into details and in depth on what a typical insurance agent or even a website is going to ask of you as far as data. What is the information you can share and what should you be able to share? Go ahead and watch it now. It'll help you out a ton. I'm Mark with Think Insurance. I'll see you in the next one.